Hello and welcome to the string section. This section will work through all the string operations with PHP. So let's look at the objective and what you will learn in this section. Well, in this section you will learn how to combine two strings together. You will print multi-string with here doc and now doc, and then you'll understand the difference between the two. You'll find the string length and how to find the string position. Then we'll work through some of the commonly used string functions like number of words, replacing strings, reverse strings, remove white spaces, shuffle string, find position case sensitive. You learn how to convert your string to upper and lower case, word wrap the string and display it. So there's a lot of operations you will learn using strings in this section. Then you'll work with exercises, interview question, resources, and obviously an assignment that you can work using the strings. Okay, so that's all the topic we'll cover in this lecture. So let's move on to the lecture now. Hello and welcome to the lecture on strings. So let's start with example 1, how to combine two strings. So if you open up the example 1 folder, so the logical flow is to learn how to combine two strings together, and part of that we will create this file. Okay, so let's open Sublime, Control N, Control S. So we'll create a folder in www and we'll call it as strings. Okay, and we'll save the file here. This is the file name. So we'll learn how to combine two strings together. Okay, to combine two strings together you use something called as dot. Okay, and this is basically a dot symbol, and it's an operator which is used to two strings together. Okay, let's see an example how to do it. So let's say you have a first name, John, then you have a last name, Smith, and then you now need a full name. Then what you do is you combine it with first name dot the last name. Okay, and then now you can print the full name. So let's run this. So I'm in the strings folder. Okay, so this is John Smith, so you can adjust the spacing here. Okay, looks nicer now. You use a dot operator to combine two strings together. Let's look at how to combine integers and boolean together along with the strings. Okay, so if you have marks, that's an integer, then you have passed as a boolean variable, right? So you have an integer and then you have a boolean variable. Let's try to combine a integer, a boolean variable, and a string together, everything together. Okay, so we'll add strings, integer, boolean, and other basic variable types with the dot operator. Okay, let's do this. So if I say I have a content, student, the name of the student, say got total now I can say the marks, right? Total marks. You can say he is passed. You can say is passed, and I can say dollar echo dollar content. Okay, so there are a couple of things here. Using double quotes where the variable will be interpolated, and then we are attaching a string with a number, and then a string with a boolean variable. I want to show you how the boolean variable and also how the integers will look like. Okay, so if you print this, so the variable has been replaced with the value, then the integer has been shown, and true value is shown with the number 1 because it's true. True is displayed as 1, right? So you see how the strings is able to attach integers and boolean variables, because when you use the dot operator, everything is converted into a string. Well, that's the power of the dot operator. Anything that you attach with a dot will become to a string. Okay, so you can attach anything you want. You can attach a variable of any data type. You can attach string, integer, boolean, or decimals, or you can do a string inside, and you can put a double quote string, single quote string. Everything you can attach with a dot. Okay, you can attach constants, you can attach literally everything that you want. You can attach with a dot, and it will be printed as a string. Okay, it will convert everything into a string, and then it will attach it to, if it's your variable, then it's attached to that variable. If you're printing it, then it will print that value. Okay, so remember this, how to combine two strings. To combine strings together, variables together of any data type, you will use a dot operator. Okay, so that's all on this lecture on how to combine two strings, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on here doc. Let's look at an example of here doc. The strings example to here doc folder. So if you open the logical flow, we'll write a block of strings with here doc. The purpose of here doc is to display a block of strings. Okay, if you have a big content that you want to print onto the output, you don't want to encode it with multiple lines and all those things, you can use something called as here doc. We're going to look at the syntax, how you can write it. But the purpose of here doc is to print a block of strings. Okay, so part of this, we will create here doc.php file. So let's quickly create that. I save the file. So let's write that program to print a block of strings. So let's create some variable. I'm creating two variables, one is integer and one is strings. Then we will write a block of strings using here doc. Okay, so what is the syntax of an here doc? So syntax is, if you want to print something, you have to use 3 less than symbols. Okay, and then you can put a label to it. So you can say doc label. Okay, that is basically a label that you are saying, okay, I'm starting it from here. Okay, and this is symbol to say this is an here doc. Okay, and now you can start literally type anything that you want. This is an opening label, and then you have a closing label. The closing label is something like this. Okay, so you can close the label with a semicolon, and anything that you type here will be printed onto the output. Okay, you can write anything inside this. Okay, you can have double quotes, right? Anything. You can have the dot, then you can have single quotes, right? You can actually have any number of dots. Okay, doesn't really matter what you do. And I'm trying to print a variable here. $name knows how to write PHP. Okay, let's see whether the $name will be converted or not. Okay, and I'll do an operation here. I'll say $number 10 into $number into 10. I'm doing a multiplication here. So this will help you to see whether the multiplication works or not, and the string interpolation happens or not, and what happens to the dots that you're doing it here. Let's write a condition here, right? I'm seeing whether it has some effect or not, whether the condition is printed or basically the line itself is printed. Okay, I'll do an end of the line as well. I'll do some HTML as well. Let's see what happens. Okay, is this bold? Okay, and apart from variable, nothing will work. Okay, let's try to print that. Let's see whether it's true or wrong. Okay, let's print this out. So let's understand this. Okay, so your double quotes and then your dot doesn't really care. However, the variable substitution has happened, so variable interpolation is working, but the multiplication is not working. Even the conditions are not working. Even the PHP new lines are not working. And I believe if you print this out to an output, then you will see the strong there on the web page. But apart from variable, nothing will actually works in this. You can put any kind of operation inside this. No PHP code will actually work apart from the variable substitution. Okay, that's very important to understand. That's the reason we have done an multiplication operation here, just to see whether the multiplication should have done 10 into 10 into 100, but it doesn't really care about that, and this doesn't care about any condition, any semicolons, converting that constants into a value, doesn't really care. Okay, so only thing that happens inside here doc is basically the variable substitution. That's what we saw here. Apart from that, everything is just a text to print on the output. Okay, so if you want to print something onto the output and doesn't really worry about what's inside that, whether you want to write a PHP code, you want to display anything that you want to do that doesn't affect your program, and you want to just consider them as a string, you want to print a string, then this is the logic how you write the here doc. You have to write 3 less than symbols, give a label to it, and close the label here. Okay, and whatever you write inside this, I'm not starting out with a double quote here. Even if you start with a double quote and with the double quotes, the double quotes will just print like that, right? It doesn't really care double quote, single quote, your operations, nothing is care in this. There's a nice block that is given from PHP for us to put anything inside this which we'll consider as a string to be printed onto the output. Okay, so play around with it, and if you here doc is mostly used for documentation purpose, wherein you open up the tag, close the tag, and then you put all the documentation logic here. Okay, it's like a string that you want to just print in the output. Okay, so that's the purpose of here doc, and that's how you write it. So that's all the lecture on here doc. Let's look at the next topic. Welcome to the lecture on now doc. So let's look at an example in now doc in strings. Example 3. The logical flow is to write a block of string using now doc. So we have seen here doc and now doc. The purpose of both of that is to write a block of strings which is used to write the documentation. So let's understand what is the difference between here doc and the now doc and how do you write it. Okay, part of it you will create now doc.php file. So let's create this file. So I'm going to copy paste the same code from here doc. Okay, this is the example that we have seen previously. So I'm going to copy this and put it over to here doc. Okay, so this is an here doc. So let's convert this into a now doc. Okay, so what is the difference between now doc and a here doc? Okay, how do you define it? You put a label to it in single quotes. Okay, that is the only thing that you do. And let's first run here doc. Okay, in here doc what we saw, the variable substitution happened, and actually nothing else happened, everything printed as it is. Whereas in now doc, okay, even the variable substitution doesn't happen. Okay, so whatever you have written it here, it just printed like that, right? And even the variable substitution doesn't happen. Okay, apart from that nothing else happened, right? This is almost like a constant, right? No variable interpolation will happen. So we can say no variable interpolation will happen in now doc. Okay, now doc is basically really a constant string that you want to print onto the output. Okay, nothing else apart from that. Even you put variables here, it doesn't work. Variables will be printed as it is. So this is basically more useful than here doc, because here doc has some kind of manipulation happening in the string, wherein you want to use a documentation. Even though you put variable names, you put anything inside, you just want to print as it is. Whatever you type here you want to print, you should do it with now doc. And remember, is just coming up with this single quotes. If you remove the single quotes, it becomes here doc. If you add the single quotes, it becomes now doc. That's the purpose of now doc. So that's very simple to understand between here doc and the now doc. And the example is the variable interpolation will happen in here doc and it will not happen in now doc. And how do you identify now doc? Basically, there is a single quotes that you will give to that label. Okay, once you give that single quote, it become now doc. Well, that's all on the lecture on now doc, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on strings, and we are doing example for string length. So let's open the logical flow. So this is a very common scenario where you want to find the length of the string. So we'll see how to find the length of the string. So we'll create this file string length.php. Okay, so I'll define a variable. And how to print the string length? So there's a method called strLength where you pass the variable name and you just print that value. Okay, so that's the string length, that's 11. So let's look at another example where name1 is empty, right? Can you make a guess what happens when you print a string length of empty? Okay, make a guess and I'll run it. Okay, it's 0. And also make a guess if what happens you make a string length of a variable that is not been set. Okay, so let's look at that. Even that is 0. Okay, and if your variable is having null, make a guess what will happen. It's even 0. So it doesn't really matter. String length doesn't really blow up. It means it doesn't give you an error stating this variable is not there, variable not defined, variable is empty, variable is null. It just doesn't care. If the variable is not defined, the length is 0. If the variable is empty, the length is 0. If the variable is null, then it is 0. So it's very safe to use string lengths wherever you want to use. And most of the cases, if it is 0, means the variable is empty. If it is more than 0, then there is some data inside the string. Okay, so that's a good condition. Sometimes you want to write if str length or name is greater than 0, basically a valid condition, right? You can say echo, or you can say $name. Okay, the field is empty, right? Because you're printing this, it's empty. You can always put something here. And it will show that value. Okay, it's a good case to check empty or not, but this is not a good case. You can always do empty of $name. So let's check this. Okay, it's something, and if it is null, it works fine also. Okay, so there are many cases you can use empty, but we are most cases string length is greater than 0. This is what we are checking. So it's safe to use string lengths in if conditions. It is safe to use whether to check a variable that is not available, variable is empty, variable is null, variable has some value. Well, that's an example on how to find out a length of a string. You can use strLength function to figure that out. Okay, so that's all on the lecture on string lengths, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on string positions. In this example, we'll try to find the string position of a given word in a string. Okay, let's do an example 5. So logical flow is to find a string position inside a string. It's a very common scenario when you work with strings. You want to find some strings inside a string. So part of this, we will create string position.php file. So let's quickly create this. So I'm going to write a big content. So I'll say content. This is a very long content and it is a string. And what we're going to do here, we're going to find the string position inside this string. So we'll say this is the find content word, which will say, okay, we want to find content inside the content variable. Okay, we can actually do a position variable and figure that out, and the method that we can use is string strpos. This is the method strpos to find the position inside a string. So the first parameter is your content, the second parameter is the word that you're finding. Okay, then it will find the position. So let's print the position. Okay, so let's print the position first. Okay, so that's the 20th position in the string, and it's able to find this content inside this string. Okay, and if you are doing a content like this, okay, and you want to find it out, obviously it cannot find out because the content is different case. You can use stripos. It is case insensitive and is able to find it out. Okay, the I indicates it is an insensitive, case insensitive search. Okay, so let's say you want to find content word is nothing but content1. Okay, then we'll say position, find this out, and we will try to find a position which is not available, right? This content1 is not available. So you see it is empty, it's false, right? And I want to show you how the false look like, right? I want to understand this concept very clearly. If you print true, false, let's say I print true again, so you see the difference. Okay, so let's run our program PHP string position. So you have to understand how the false is being printed. Okay, false doesn't really print a 0 value. Okay, it doesn't have an integer value, it has an empty space. It's not a space, but it's empty, right? So when you print false, it is empty. Okay, similarly how you print the position here, it is empty, it is basically false. It's not 0, it is false. Okay, so if you want to compare position, you actually compare it with false like this. This is the best way to compare, and this is the right way to compare the position. Okay, and then you can say echo not found. Okay, then you can say it's not found. The string is, this string is not found in this string. Okay, and let's say you want to understand the position, how it works. So if let's say I want to find this, okay, and if you print the position is actually 0th position because it's starting from 0, right? And 0 is not false. Remember this, a false is false here, right? and we know how to compare that false. So never compare it with 0, because 0 could be the 0th position and it is actually a true condition, means the string has been found. Okay, so you have to be careful with string positions. Okay, string positions of 0, it means it's not false, it's actually true, the string has been found. Okay, so if you say if not position, then you can say $position. So I'm just trying to show you how it can be checked. If you do this, typically it's saying not found, okay, the 0th value, but this is a wrong condition, right? You should not check like this. You should not say not of $position. You should not do this. Okay, nor you should, because if you, what you're doing it here is you're doing this, right? You are trying to check the false condition here, and it will not work in the if. Okay, it's wrong. You should always check this one. This is the right way to check whether the position is correct or not. Okay, so obviously it's false condition, right? It doesn't print it because position is found. That's why you should always check it with false, not with 0. Means you should not do if of not position found, because typically sometimes you think, oh, 0 means false. Actually 0 is not false. The 0 could be 0th position of that value. So the right way to check is check with the false. Remember to use 3 = to check the data type as well. Okay, the value and the data type has to be false. Okay, never ever check with if of 0. Okay, if of 0 could be false, but that is a wrong way of checking. Okay, I hope this concept is very clear when you're using string positions. String position output is false, then the string is not found. If the string position output is 0, means it is found. Okay, so be careful with this when you do this kind of searches. Many of the people make this mistakes of understanding string position 0th position is false. Okay, 0th position is not false. 0th position is actually the starting position of that string. Okay, so I hope it's very clear how to work with string positions. If you want to compare case insensitive, you use I. Okay, if you want to use case sensitive, then remove that I. Okay, so that's on the lecture on string position, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on commonly used string functions. So let's write some commonly used string functions. So if you go to example 6, logical flow. So we'll try to write these functions on the string and try to find the number of words. We'll try to replace the string, we'll try to reverse the string, remove white spaces, shuffle the string, find some position, case insensitive, we have seen this, upper and lower case, word wrap the string and display it. Okay, so we'll try to use some of the string functions and do this exercise. So I'm going to copy this up. So before that, we're going to create this file string function. Okay, so I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to print it here so we know what examples we need to do it here. Okay, so let's understand some string functions and we will work through the examples and try to do this example. Okay, so the first one, we'll try to define some variable first. You can do string operations easily with string functions. Okay, then we will say find word. Operations, then we'll have a position which is equal to false. Okay, so I'll do an echo. So let's print this first, then we'll try to add one by one all the string functions. Okay, so this is the string. We'll play around with this string and we'll try to use all the functions that is defined there. So the first one is to find the number of words. Okay, so we'll say echo number of words in the string is str word count. Okay, and then we just have to pass the content, end of the line, then it will try to print the number of words, not the length but the words. Next we will try to replace strings. So I'll say find and replace operation with manipulation. Then you have str_replace to replace the string. So you have a search string, replace string, and the subject. So the search string is operations. We'll replace operations with manipulation, and then the subject is the content. Okay, so we'll print this. Okay, and you can see you can do a string, the content, the operation has been replaced with manipulations. Okay, the function is str_replace. Then you have reverse strings. Okay, this is str_reverse string. Okay, you just reverse the string, that's the reverse of the string. Then you can do shuffle string. Okay, so echo str_shuffle content. Okay, the string is shuffled. Okay, then you can find position case insensitive. You've already seen this, but I'm going to show you anyway. stripos, that I indicates in case sensitive. Okay, that's the position of operations in the content. Okay, however the replace we haven't assigned it to content, so it's just an printing of the replacement value. If we would have assigned it to content back, that the content would have been the manipulation, but now the content is still having the operation. So for that you can even print and check. So the string is still having operations, and that's why you're able to find the position of operations. Let's look at uppercase and lowercase. So str to upper, this is to lower. Okay, that's the uppercase and lowercase. Okay, and you want to do a string wrap, so let's do a word wrap of strings. Let's say you have a big string, so let me paste the string here. Okay, this is the string that you have, and when you print this string, let's print this string. okay, is just printed like this, but you want to word wrap to a specific length. Okay, so how you're gonna do it, you have a method called word wrap, yeah, and you can specify what is the length, till what length for each line you want to have a break. Okay, and you can print this, and you can see it's wrapped till 25th character, and if you say 50th character, so print like this. If you say one character, it's gonna looks very weird. Okay, the one character is just a word, so that's why for every word it will just put a break. Okay, so if you want to print every word, just put one here and it will print all the words for you in one line. Okay, some useful functions here, so I'm gonna do a quick summary on what we have seen. The word wrap method is to wrap the content, string lower, string upper to lowercase and uppercase. Stri pause is basically to find the position of a string inside the string. I is insensitive search. Str shuffle to shuffle the string. Str reverse to reverse the string. Str underscore replace to replace the string. Str word count is to find the number of words, not the length. Str length we have seen to find the length. Str word is to find the word in the string. Okay, so that's all the functions we have seen. Number of words, replace, reverse, remove white spaces. So remove white spaces is basically a trim. So let's add some spaces into this, so you have a trim. Okay, you can do a trim to content. After the, so we're gonna make this to, let's say 50. Okay, and if you see the space here, okay, and the space here is gone. It's basically the trim will trim the white spaces from starting and bottom. Okay, starting we see there's a space here, there's no space here because the trim is in applied. Okay, trim will remove the white spaces from starting and from the last. Okay, so that's all the functions for strings. We have seen all these functions, and I think these are the very commonly used and very helpful string functions. Okay, that's all the lecture on commonly used string functions, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the string functions. We're doing exercise 1 on the string function. So here's an exercise for you that you can try out and understand how to work with string functions. So for logical flow, do the exercise and you can learn how to work with string functions. Part of this, you can create this file string functions exercise1.php. So if you go to before folder, you will find a before file. Let's open that up. Okay, and in this you will find your exercise. So the exercise is to find a given word in the string. Use case insensitive, use your own example and try to find a word case sensitive and case insensitive. Then you calculate the length of the string. Then you try to remove a white space from the left in the string. Then you reverse the string. So without seeing the function library, okay, just remember what is the function that you want to use, and then you try to apply that function to a given string. So you define a string and then you work through this exercise with the scenarios that we have seen previously. Pause the video here and do the exercise. Welcome back. So let's do this exercise. So we're gonna copy this into a strings folder, and we're going to remove that before. Okay, we're going to open this file. Okay, and we're going to do the exercise in this one. You have to find a given word in a string. So we'll define some variable. So now you can say position is equal to stri pos content find word. And how you're gonna check the position? If you remember the example that we have done, the position should be checked with false. Okay, then we'll say echo find word has been found. Okay, so we'll close the PHP tag. Obviously we are checking for false here. So what we should be doing is we should be doing a not here. Okay, then your operations has been found, because the false condition will become this, but now it's in reverse way. Okay, we are saying it's not false means it has been found. So that's the condition, and if you change it with operations 1, so the operation 1 has not found. Okay, don't do this mistake. Let me show you this mistake. Don't do position greater than equal to 0, then do this. Okay, this is a mistake in understanding how the positions will work. Okay, the greater than equal to 0 will always be true even that is not found. So it's say operation 1 has been found. Actually operation 1 should be false, and false is 0, so it's basically it's saying it has been found, but actually it is not found, right? So never make this mistakes of checking with integers. Okay, positions as always be checked with true or false. Okay, remember that. So need not to check with true, because if it's an integer value then it won't have true value, it has the position value, it has the integer value. So always check with false. If it's not equal to false means it has some position value. If it is false, then it is basically the value is not found. Okay, so in this case it is false, that's why it goes here. Okay, and if you remove this, this can be visible now. Okay, so let's do the another example. Calculate the length of the string. So this is simple and straightforward. So I'll say str length content. Okay, that's the length of the string, 57. Then you remove the white spaces. Let's trim the white spaces. Now you want to do one left trim. Okay, for that you have L trim content. If there is a space, it will be removed. Okay, so you, as you have L trim, you also have R trim. Trim will trim with left and right. If you only want to trim left, you put L. If you want to trim on right, you put R trim. Okay, so now you have to reverse the string. So for this even you can say str reverse. Okay, that's the reverse of the string. Okay, so that's the exercise on string functions. We have seen how to reverse the string, remove white spaces from left, find the string length, find a position of a string. Okay, that's all the exercise on string function. I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on string functions. We're looking at exercise 2. So part of this we will do the exercise and learn about string functions. Open up the deliverable file. So we'll create this file. So before that we will look at before file. So before file we'll do this exercise. We will word wrap the long string using the word wrap method. We will find and replace a word in uppercase. We will count number of words. Then we'll shuffle the string. So this is the exercise you can do. Well, you can pause the video here and do this exercise. Welcome back. Let's do the exercise now. So we're gonna copy the file here, before file. I'm gonna remove the before here. Okay, so let's do this exercise. So we're gonna take the example variables from what we have done previously. Okay, and then we're gonna word wrap the long string. So for word wrap, we can say word wrap $content to, let's say, 5. Okay, if you want to word wrap and you want to display as it is, then you can use a pre tag and you can put the word wrap there. So let's open this file, exercise 2, and you can see it is word wrap nicely. So because of the space, okay, at the 5 characters you can say 15. Okay, you can see the word wrap as it is if you use the pre tag. Okay, let's find and replace a word in an uppercase. Okay, so we're gonna say str replace str to upper of that fine word, and you're gonna say content. Okay, we're just replacing that word to an uppercase, so operation becomes operations in uppercase. So we have find and replaced and the uppercase. So count number of words, it's very simple, str underscore word count, that's 9 words. Then you can shuffle the words, so str underscore shuffle, so that's basically the shuffling of the characters in the string. Let's do a quick summary on what we have done this exercise. We have shuffled the string using str shuffle, count number of words, find and replace in uppercase, did a word wrap. Okay, so that's all on the exercise on string functions, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on assignment on string operations. So you do this practical test. Let me show you what you can do as an assignment. So open up the logical flow of example. So here is your assignment. You have to find a length of a string, find a field inside the string, write a documentation about your program using here doc or now doc. Then you can use some of the string function and show some examples there. Do this as an assignment to understand how to work with strings. Okay, I hope when you do this assignment you will cover most of the functions that you have used in strings, and it will help you understand how to work around with strings. Okay, so all the best for your assignment, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the section summary for strings. By now you should be able to learn how to combine 2 strings together. You should be able to print multi-strings user here docs and now doc. You should be able to find a string length and a string position. So by now you should be able to use some commonly used string functions. And I hope you have worked with exercises, interview question, and also the practical test using strings, and you have a very good idea about how to work with strings. Well, that's all about strings in this section, and I'll see you in the next one.